Hello everyone. Welcome to Tinted Tales Reading Across Cultures, our tonight's or today's reading event, wherever you are. I'm Lisa Schantel. I'm the editor-in-chief at Tint Journal. And I'm just having some audio issues, so now everything's working, I hope. Yeah, just briefly again, I'm the editor-in-chief and founder of Tint Journal. And Tint Journal is the literary magazine for writers who choose to write in English as their second or non-native language. We've been around now for almost 2.5 years, so almost 3 years. And it's been an exciting journey of bringing international literature in the world's most spoken second language, which is English, together on tintjournal.com. So in our biannual literary issues, which you can read for free on tintjournal.com, we publish fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. And we're currently also open for submissions for our next issue, which will be released this September, Tint Fall 21. So if you're interested still in submitting, there's time until May 31st, midnight Vienna time. Make sure to send us your work, your poetry, nonfiction, and fiction, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our open call as we go on. We also publish work on non-native English speakers in our In Conversation section. So we do interviews, profiles, and book reviews. And if you're interested in that, please also just have a look at tintjournal.com. Yeah, to celebrate the occasion even a little bit more, this very exciting reading tonight, we're going to raffle 2 Tint Journal tote bags amongst all of you who are going to send us an email saying tote bag in the reference as long as the live stream goes. So here's our wonderful tote bags. I hope you can see them. We're really excited to spread the word also with this little merchandising stuff. So yeah, if you're interested, I'm going to share the info in the live chat as we go on, where you can post everything and send us an email at info@tintjournal.com to win a tote bag tonight. Yes, and actually, I'd also like to encourage you to make use of the YouTube live chat. It's always nice to connect with you, to get a little bit of the responses, also from the audience side. Just tell us what you think of the reading, of Tint in general, ask questions, ideas, really whatever comes to your mind. We're happy to talk to you and to start a conversation here as well. Yeah, and I'm not here by myself, obviously, tonight. I'm co-moderating this event with our prose editor, Matt. And yeah, Matt, probably you can just tell our audience a little bit about yourself and show yourself, yeah.
See, hello, yep, okay. Hello, my name is Matt Monroy. I'm the prose editor for Tint, as Lisa said. I started with Tint, like Lisa said, a couple years ago when I was still at Montclair State University, and I've loved it ever since. It's been a great experience, and this is my first Tinted Tales that I'm helping MC with Lisa, but I'm sure it won't be the last. I can't wait to hear some of the readings that we're having, and it's going to be a great time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matt, for being here. And I'm really glad that you've been on this journey with us for so long now, actually. This is quite amazing, too. Yeah, and for tonight, we have gathered 6 tinted writers for you who've already been published in Tint in our past and also in our current issue. And one open list guest who successfully applied, is not yet published in Tint, but who's joining us tonight also to show how far and how broad non-native English literature can be. And I suggest let's just have a brief look at the joining writers tonight. So I hope you can see all of them right now. I'm happy to welcome Katya, Davood, Satwik, Gupta, Marlena, Lahmer, Hector, Munoz, Sharok, Nazari, Eva Titic, and Seher Hashmi here tonight. So thank you all for joining. And probably you also have seen the picture where a little bit more than just one person was in. I'm super happy to welcome soulparlez to here today. They are a Vienna-based a cappella ensemble, and they will musically guide us through the evening with their just gentle and powerful sounds. They do a mix of jazz, soul, pop, and French chanson, and I'm super excited for them to be here and to lighten up our readings with some musical tunes. Yes, and I think, speaking of it, we could probably just get started and dive right into. So soulparlez, if you're ready, the stage is all yours to open this evening.
Slow, beating fast, you'd never ever know when the beat drops slow, beating fast, you'd never ever know when the beat drops slow, beating fast, you'd never ever know when the beat drops slow, beating fast, you will never know.
Thank you. Yeah, I can just say the same. Thank you so much for opening this night for us here and for also staying with us. So for all of you who just like this as much as I did, soulparlez is going to stay with us, and they're coming in for an interlude and also for a closing at the end. Yes, and I think it's time to begin the actual literary performances. And so I'm super, super happy to welcome first on our virtual stage, Katya Davood. She's a Portuguese writer with roots in India and Mozambique. Her background is in languages, literature, and political science. And she works as a talent director in Berlin currently. In life and fiction, she explores new worlds and the things that connect and divide us through travel, yoga, psychology, and art. And she's actually published her first piece ever at Tint, which I still can't believe, though. So, Katya, I'm sure we will read and also hear more of you quite soon. She published actually Modern Kitchen, a flash fiction piece with us in our most recent issue, Spring'21. And she's also going to perform this one for us tonight. So here's Katya for all of you.
Thank you so much. So nice to be here, and also so nice to have published my first work with Tint. And thank you, Lisa, as well, for that beautiful introduction. I actually got my second publication as well coming up in Litro. So if you're interested, stay tuned on that. So yeah, just start with the reading. Like Lisa said, my piece is called Modern Kitchen. And I'm just gonna get started with it. Most accidents happen in the home, most notably in the kitchen. She watches him slice the tomatoes with precision, the translucent juice filling the ridges of the wood chopping board. Their scent of freshness in summer melts with garlic, a hint of basil, a dash of olive oil, a daydream of blinding sun reflecting against white stone and a sapphire blue sky. She envies Elmo as much as she feels sorry for him. His touch is as insensitive as hers is dormant, the delicate softness of the plum tomato out of reach to both. He catches her watching. She holds his electric gaze as she puts one foot ahead of the other, provocatively. Please keep your distance. He issues a programmed warning. She walks slowly, purposefully, toward him. His eyes have as many depths of sadness as hers. He shifts on his feet, alarmed. For your protection, please stay away, a metallic shriek. She's closer to him now than she has ever been. The hairs on her arms stand up at the touch of his cool iron skin. She remembers the heat in Tuscany, the olive grove, cooling her feet on the kitchen tiles, the wooden countertop, the gravy on the stove, tomatoes from a back garden, a shiver as the blade brushed her skin while she chopped. She closes her eyes and traces her fingers down to his knife hand, onto the ripe red fruit. She presses her long fingernails into it. The skin bursts, tearing, folding onto itself, exposing the softness of the flesh. Pulp spills out as she pierces deeper, seeds lodging beneath her nails, warm liquid sprinkling onto her wrist, onto his fingers, dripping. Metal slices with precision, crimson lines on wood. Elmo is silent now. He carries on chopping. Thank you.
Thank you, Katya. That was a beautiful piece. I remember when we first got that submission, I remember it truly stood out to me. I'm so glad that you were in the issue, and I hope you're going to come back for some more, because we'd love to hear more from you. So our next writer who will be reading is Marlena Lahmer. She is Austrian. Her first language is German, second language English and Estonian. And she was published in our Tinted Spring 20 edition for her poem Translation Ban. She is also an artist who works with glass. She studied English and American Studies and Transdisciplinary Art in Vienna, did Erasmus in Glass Art in Tallinn. Some motifs that interest her are speaking positions, love discourse, the poetics and potentials of glass, the power of rotational force. I'm sure she can tell more about some more about that. Two writers she adores are Patti Smith and Ulla Meinecke. I hope I'm saying that right. And she's going to be performing a few poems for us today. So Marlena, if you're ready.
Hi, thank you for this wonderful introduction. I just want to say before I start that I decided to skip my self-referential approach to language a bit this time and rather read to the people who make me chew on things emotionally. To set the general mood, I plead for the logic of powder that is never lost, but parts and always retains the more of it that's split. And you're conserving glass shards because matter remains matter, even if it doesn't go back together. And the more it spreads, the larger the net that spans what was and is thereby connected. Like the ashes of a shirt I used to wear every day, still cover the ground far away, and the stain on the textile still covers a spot that used to be clean, although I cut it and threw it into the sea. Like the beach on which it washed up, still has the shape of a vast melted shell, and its sharp severed edges are the mark from a frame that didn't know what it held. Just as everything off still conveys the absence and imprint of that from which it detached. To Florian. Love, I want you to feel the gravity with which you pull me, ground me, make me go round. You're forever the undertone to my strife. I'm thinking about you, turning round beats tonight. And when I doze to sleep, I long for your voice in the loops of my mind. To my collective and to Elsa Pleinacher, a woman who was banned as a witch in Vienna. Elegy to Elsa. I will pour milk on your execution site, and we'll see how the snakes come to bind the remnants that are long gone and not here anymore. So I'll crawl to be fed with tincture, milk mixed with blood, hair, and ashes from your wounds that will always be sore, milk that screams torture. I will fill the water supply network with that sap so that the hydrants spill the debris of your violent death, and all the snakes in Vienna will know they're addressed and will drink canal water to taste where you rest. To my grandma and the life she led in post-war Austria. There once was a soldier coat that would be shafts of boots. They cut out the intact parts and redyed them dark blue. Someone brought leather that would become the shoe, and the rest were decorations to keep together shaft and shoe. I'll continue with some fragments. Gravity spell to Laura. You always think the world revolves around you until you understand it doesn't, which is fine because you share and increase the pull. To Katya and Ariana. Thinking every day how to combine the few jeans and t-shirts we brought from home with the whimsical accessories we'd buy secondhand, where to take them, how to move in them, how to move when not dressed at all, how to bathe in furnished rooms of different sizes and social constellations. And last will be a little prose text. The glass from my window turns into a bulb that I try to blow up with my bare mouth, like a tight air balloon. If I don't make it, if I don't get beyond the point of resistance, it will reversely enter my mouth and cast into my lungs to suffocate me. So I keep the balance, I keep the substance in check of equal forces, while I start seeing stars in my eyes, and wonder if this situation is the reason anyone ever thought the universe worked in spheres. Just a second after I think I can't force my breath anymore, I get beyond, and my brain feels the oxygen escape. The stars spark, and the window eases back into place and cracks as it settles in the frame. The handle of the cup in my hand has elongated and drooped sideways towards the floor. The liquid has already reached it and soaked my socks, like when you wake up from a dream and find yourself in the bay. The handle keeps melting as I pull it up and twist it into a spiral. There's no stop, but when it hits, it doesn't break, but folds mellow against the tiles and dissolves in mint tea. Tiles continue the movement and waver. My wet feet are no longer swimming, but stuck in quicksand, and I sink as the sand leans up towards me and whispers in my ear that it leads the same conspiracy the window glass started, as their soulmates met again. They long to touch each other, but I'm simply in their way. I look to the handle piece in my hand for help, and it stops disintegrating for a moment. I say, no, continue, as I realize I have to be swallowed to be spit out or digested, whichever it takes to get out. So I stop at the point of resistance. The sand grows over me like a suit and seals with the window that has moved above my head to have a better view of things, like a skylight, before it goes blind as the sand overgrows it. I will be free, and when I am, I'll wear it as sand-scratched spectacles on my face. Finding the handle will be a story for another time. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlena, for sharing your poems with us and also this prose text this time. I just posted the link to Marlena in the chat, so you can actually find out what she published at Tint with us a few issues ago. Next up, we have Hector Munoz. His nationality is Spanish. His first language is also Spanish, and he speaks English, Catalan, Galician, and French. He was born in Santa Coloma de Gramenet, I hope I am pronouncing this correctly, and he has lived in Dublin since 2016. He holds an MA in creative writing and is studying for a PhD in the same field, also at Dublin City University. And he's currently working on his first novel. So if this is still the case, Hector, super excited to learn more about it. And we're definitely going to read it too, and probably review it. So also have a look at our In Conversation section when it's published there. So Hector, if you're ready, the stage is all yours.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa, for that wonderful presentation. Yes, still working on the novel. Hopefully we'll get it done over the summer. But today I'm going to read a slightly shorter piece. My piece is called Variations on Burglary at Tivoli Avenue. And I wrote 3 different variations on the same event. And this one is variation number 2. The only thing I will say is that there are 2 characters, so please bear with me while I try to, make them sound differently enough. All right, here we go. Mikey, I'm not sure about this. You're not sure about what? This whole thing, just turn around, will you? I mean, it was a mistake. I shouldn't have come. I shouldn't. The car ran over the sleeping policeman and Noel hit the ceiling with his head. The exhaust let out a rain of sparks when it hit the roads. For Christ's sake, Mikey. It's a one-way lane, pal. I'm afraid turning back now would be illegal, Mikey says. And then he laughed like a hyena. Besides, we're almost there anyway. It's that house there. They approached a white house surrounded by an overgrown garden. Mikey parked on the other side of the road and switched off the engine. Noel watched him putting his balaclava on and then looked away. Oh shit, Mikey, I can't do this. I couldn't even steal a biscuit from the tin when I was a kid. I once tried and my hands were shaking so badly that I broke into pieces and I couldn't pick the crumbs up. I had to lick them off the floor, Mikey, off the fucking floor. My mom found me licking them and the dog was beside me and the dog was getting most of them. I swear that dog got at least 70% of. Shut up. You said you were going to do it, and now you're doing it. Is that clear? Mikey breathed out. Noel didn't. I'm counting on you, all right? I've been watching this house like a hawk, and it's a safe place until tomorrow, so stop moaning. It's an easy job. Once we move the stuff, you and your Sheila will go on the best holiday ever, all right? To Rome or to Spain or to the fucking moon. Isn't that what you want? Yeah, that's it. So take one of these and put your balaclava on now, said Mikey, throwing the balaclava at Noel's face and shoving a small jar of tablets into his chest. What's this? Just take off one of them and get out, you bloody chicken, Mikey said. He got out of the car and slammed the door shut. Noel watched him walk towards the back of the car and disappear behind the heavy rain. Then he looked at the jar, but his hands were shaking and he couldn't read the label. Oh, fuck it, he said. He opened the jar and tried to get one of the tablets out, but Mikey hit the window to hurry him up and he jerked, sending a bunch of them to the floor. Shit, he said. Oh, shit. He closed the jar, knelt down and started to pick up the tablets with his shaking hands, putting them in his mouth. Just like with the fucking biscuit, he said. I got a fucking slap on the face for that biscuit, for God's sake. Noel put his balaclava on while crossing the road, and by the time he reached the door, Mikey was already fiddling with the lock. Noel stood behind him, stealing glances at the car, the streets, the neighbors. Come on, Mikey, he said. You said, shut the fuck up. This fucker is a tough one, all right? Oh, Mikey, don't say that, please. This was supposed to be easy. This was... Noel said, but a sudden cramp in his stomach made him bend over, and he had to lean on the door jamb. The bell rang. Somewhere, a dog started barking. What the fuck are you doing? Said Mikey, slapping him in the face. Are you stupid? Oh shit, Mikey, I don't feel well, said Noel, holding his belly. My nerves are killing me, man. Jesus, I need to take a shit pretty urgently. Then go and crap, for Christ's sake, Mikey said, slapping him again and kicking him in the arse. Noel ran to the side of the house, bending down and whining and mumbling that he knew he'd get slapped. He crouched beside the rose bush, and on the yellow petals that had started falling off, he discharged. He pricked his hand when trying to take some leaves from the rose bush to clean himself, so he reached for an ivy-looking plant nearby. On turning, he saw the window. Hey, Mikey, Noel whispered, but Mikey didn't respond. Mikey! Mikey appeared from around the corner of the house. What the fuck is wrong with you? Do you want us to get caught or what? Mikey, the window, Noel said, pointing at the low window on the wall. It's open. Mikey looked at it and then at Noel, still crouching and holding the bunch of leaves in his hand. Clean yourself, for God's sake, he said, and he climbed in through the window. Mikey, wait! Noel rubbed his behind with the ivy leaves and pulled his jeans up, and then followed Mikey head first. It was dark inside, or so it seemed to Noel. Mikey had already left the bedroom, and he could hear vague noises somewhere else in the house. He groped his way around, but tripped over an open drawer and fell on the floor. Lying there, he became aware of slight discomfort in his crotch and lower back, a sort of itch. Mikey's head appeared at the door. What the fuck are you doing there? I tripped over, Noel said, feeling the discomfort turn into a burning sensation. Where's the bathroom? He asked, getting up. Mikey didn't even reply. or if he did, Noel didn't hear him. He just disappeared in the darkness. Noel got up and stumbled across the house looking for Mikey until he found him in a bedroom, searching through the drawers and cabinets. He went to the bathroom and turned on the lights, but Mikey turned it off immediately afterwards without a word. Everything was very quiet. In the bathroom, he took off his balaclava and buttoned his jeans and pulled his pants down to his ankles, and he cleaned himself again with a lilac towel that faintly smelled of lavender. He thought that it was pretty, that Sheila would like it, and that he would take it with him. And then he saw the rash in the mirror, a stinging red rash that ran down his lower back and got lost in his crotch. Shit, he thought. There were livid spots all over the rash. I'd better wash myself. So he stepped in the shower with his t-shirt still on. Mikey came into the bathroom and pulled him out of the shower. "What the fuck, Noel?" he said. And Noel noticed that Mikey's words were coming distant and muffled. "I need a shower," he said. "Get the fuck out," Mikey said, pulling him out of the shower and the bathroom, half naked and wet. "Take the TV, we're leaving." Noel didn't protest. He didn't even consider the possibility of protesting. He staggered to the living room and saw the huge TV in front of the couch. "That's got more inches in it than my living room," he thought, and he laughed at his own joke. He tried to lift it, but he hadn't unplugged the cables and barely managed to leave it where it was without dropping it before stumbling backwards and falling on the couch. I'll stay here for a moment, he thought, his eyelids feeling heavier. There was a photograph in a frame beside the TV, a man and a woman with 2 kids having an ice cream on a sunny day. They sure are in Rome or something, he thought. I'll take Sheila to Rome when I get my parts. Yeah, Rome or Spain or... Noel, what are you doing? Mikey was shaking him, slapping him again and again, but Noel couldn't feel a thing. He couldn't feel the slaps or the sting in his behind. He was in a state of bliss. He pulled the blanket that was hanging over the couch's arm and laid his head on a pillow, looking at the picture. He was in Rome or Spain or... How many tablets did you take? I don't know, a few, he said. Fuck, said Mikey. All right, you stay there. Don't move, all right? I'll take the TV to the car and then I'll come back for you. Just wait here, he repeated. But Noel wasn't going anywhere. Mikey never came back, and the next morning, Noel felt a slap on his face, just like his mother's. Wake up! A policeman was looking at him. Noel's eyes were opened wide, and he tried to say something, but his tongue didn't respond. Christ, he thought. Someone please help me. Thank you.
Thank you, Hector. That was a great little piece. Very excited for your novel, and hopefully we'll hear some more great pieces from you in a Tint in the future. All right, our next speaker will be Seher Hashmi. She is from Pakistan, and her first language is Urdu. Her second language is English, and she has not been published in Tint yet, but yet is the operative term, of course, because I'm sure she will be soon. Seher is a poet, spoken word artist, and satirist of Pakistani origin, living in Bahrain since 2004. Her debut anthology of free verse titled Othered captures a myriad of angles and the minusculities of what it feels like to be existing and voicing from within the margins of society. Her poems throb with a fiery zeal and a powerful momentum of spoken word poetry and are often written in a satirical, ironic tone. And Seher, if you'd like to get started.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to share a few poems from my debut anthology, Othered, Hot, of Press, and I'm very excited about it. The very first poem that I'm going to share with you is called Confessions of an ESL Poet. And it's about the dilemma of choosing to express yourself in a language that is not native to you. And I think that more or less each and every non-native speaker or writer has to come face to face with it somewhere, some point in time. So it goes like this. Confessions of an ESL poet. A poet friend has trouble digesting my English similes and metaphors, because after all, I am merely an ESL learner, a non-native speaker. I tell you, my friend, I am that wacky generation who grew up praising the wasteland while scowling at their mother tongue. Kafi hears Jugni Sufi Kalam. My history teacher bashed British imperialism. Watch out for divide and rule while ranted all day long, puffed up chest bragging of his immaculate use of English grammar rules, his indefinitely correct usage of infamously definite article. In school, not speaking English cost pocket money and friends had to find. At home, Urdu was just okay, but Punjabi was a federal crime. They nurtured a hodgepodge dream. Who thinks English, speaks English, but goes zapping in English, because this is only how you sound cool. But will be sexist, crass, vulgar, if blurted in Punjabi language. Pakistan's national language is Urdu, and that is written in English too. We crooned wrong lyrics of pretty Mariah Carey while despising our very own Hadika Kayani. Backstreet Boys, Boyzone, Guns N' Roses, U2, cool dudes. Our very own Sufi rock pioneers, Janoon, just a bunch of rootless goons. Brad Pitt, my first teen crush, because local boys, all sucked. Dream, feel, fear, whatever language you may. Grammatically incorrect, vocab daft, who cares? Doesn't matter. Writing takes place always, ever in English. We are the lingua franca generation, zero connections with shacks, shanty slums, unlit villages, teenage brides, famished children sitting by shrines. The lingua franca generation, still in need of a white man's validation to blind read your submissions. I'm a product of a system, creeping, crawling, inching forward on self-contradictions, still clinging on to the crutches of Macaulay's biased vision, although it's been ages since his waving up from heavens. And I am no different, unless you expect me to be something other than a human. So my dear poet friend, how come you wonder when I poeticize in English while drawing inspiration from Urdu, tracing back my long forgotten, blindly shamed, absurdly disowned, unadulterated original, like Kafis of Shah Hussain, my Punjabi roots. And the next one is something that came out while I was going through a morbid kind of mood of self-negation and dejection. So it goes like this. I'm nobody. Don't ask me my name. Lost it way back, somewhere dangling down from a spirited web, woven invisibly, ghostly visages, spooky hands, miming to put an end to every line, word, verse, syllable, trill, heartbeat. No obvious reason, just out of monotony, merely in vain. Oh, a rich man's luxury. No credit purchase, no initials, broken social media handles, neither do I belong anywhere. Let go of gravity. Its tyrannical pull. A shooting star I'd rather be, neither sky nor earth, bursting shine just for a split second, teen wave among multitude, and then be gone, one with eternity. A petty path, it may seem, but this is what I choose for me. And the last one is the one that I wrote after helping myself out of this terrible mood of self-despair and self-negation, and I'm bouncing back. And you will also hear what we know as all human beings are made equal in this poem. Search for equality and equal existence on, at par with others is something that I go back to in my work. So it echoes in this poem as well. It's titled, Here I Am. Here I am. Here I am. After being stripped of layers and layers of skin. After being flayed of innermost thoughts, wishes, even infinitesimal dreams. After being snatched of fetal ideas, their downy feel. After diverging, I am also born with same flawed anatomy. Like rest of human species, ailing heart, aging kidney. Here I am. No big daddies, no group of industries, no policies stance narrative, not even the canon of my Muslimanity. Trapeze down life, carrying wicker stuffed with honor, shame, dignity, its toxic fragility, my eternal responsibility. Nothing of that sort either. Just me. Plain old me, very flawed, loopholed me, like every other human. Nothing extraterrestrial. Making a claim unwilling to cover in my shitty brown skin, funky passport, frail feminine feet. Not asking for something extraordinary. Nothing luxe. No branded bourgeois demands. Petty ordinary comes to others for free, like basic neutrals. Found in everyone's cupboard, missing in mine. Harrow been so. Just few chunks. Even leftovers will do. Half-eaten pies, nibbled on fries, gnawed on bread. Just few fallen grains of humanity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Seher. This was really wonderful. I'm so glad that you signed up for the open list and that we came to experience your spoken word poetry here at our reading today. We're at the middle of our Tinted Tales reading. And before we jump to our interlude by soulparlez, I'd like to thank all of the writers who've already performed their texts. So we've literally, or literarily, probably traveled Portugal, Spain, Austria, and Pakistan, which is just amazing to see all these various places being reflected here in one live reading. I'm really just very grateful that you came and that you are part of this today. Of course, I also want to thank our wonderful audience who's giving us just so much love in our YouTube chat. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following and also for reading more on tintjournal.com. I'd like to briefly draw your attention to our call for submissions, which I've briefly mentioned in the beginning. So we are still accepting submissions for the next of our issues, Tint Fall 21, which will be published this September. And if you'd like to have us consider your work, your poems, your short stories, nonfiction stories, flash pieces, please submit them before May 31st at submissions@tintjournal.com. So this is our email address, and I will soon post the link to our call for submissions also in the YouTube chat, so you can just click on it and find out more about how to engage with Tint and have us consider your piece. Yeah, and kind reminder, you can still win a Tint tote bag. Don't forget about that. Email us at info@tintjournal.com. In the reference line, just say tote bag, and we have a raffle going on tomorrow. And yeah, let's see who the lucky winner. So there will be 2 winners, who they're going to be. So if you're interested in one of these bags, I'll just also briefly show it again to you. I barely run around with anything different these days, so I think they are lovely. And if you'd also like to have one, just take part in our raffle today. Great. So now this is our short interlude, and I'm happy to have soulparlez here again with us for 1 or 2 songs. So stage is all yours.
Mm-hmm. Hi. Thank you so much for having us. We are soulparlez. And we hope you're having a lovely evening so far, or lovely morning, midday, whatever time it is where you are. So the first song we performed was a composition from Lena. And we're gonna play 3 more songs. Sing 3 more songs, better to say. And the next one is a composition of mine. It's called Branches and Trees. And after that, we're gonna play a lovely song by Sahar. This is Sahar. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Once I told you to leave all my branches spread with ease, growing bigger each day, feeling more and more complete. Took me some times to see that your touch can't heal my tree. Cracks and fractures still stay, but I love them on my way. Now I finally feel your sticky fingers coming of me. Now I finally realize how breathing feels. All this time I was trying to change. Now I finally realize there's nothing wrong with being me. Once I told you to leave all my branches spread with ease, growing bigger each day, feeling more and more complete. I feel you as much as I feel me. The room we're in fills up with energy. Why do you stare at me? Why don't you wanna share what you hear and what you feel you see? I feel you as much as I feel me. Your words touch me like a rainbow in the sky. I see stars in the darkness we melt. Your looks play a warm but bitter symphony. We don't melt together like 2 persons in love, but there's a layer separating us. Why can't we just clear. And my memories in you. Something changed the way I feel about us two. I felt you as much as I felt me. But now our time is over, there's no way to return. We'll never know what could have been if we tried. But we chose to hide. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was very beautiful. Thank you so much to Soul Parlez for joining us and bringing your beautiful music. Thank you to the four of you. When it comes to nourishing the soul, I think live music and live literature go hand in hand. And I'm sure after this year, we could all use a little soul nourishment. I think this might be the first concert I've been to in over a year, if that counts. So thank you so much to Soul Parlez. And our next reading will be Sharok Nazari. She is from Morocco. Her first language is Arabic. Her second languages are English and French. And she was published in our Spring 21 edition for her short story, Wheat Thief. Sharok is an associate professor in the Department of English Studies at Mohammed Premier University in Oujda, Morocco. She has authored numerous publications on topics related to literature, media, and visual culture. She has published 3 short stories, Anna in ID New Short Fiction from Africa in 2018, Outside Riyadh Dahab, said that right, in Hotel Africa New Short Fiction from Africa, and A Bus Ride to Ouad Nashef in Coal Journal in 2019. And I believe she'll be performing her piece Wheat Thief from our spring issue now. If you're ready to go, Sharok.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Matt, for this beautiful introduction. A few words about Wheat Thief. Wheat Thief is a short story I wrote in a woman's voice. It is set during the year of the famine, which has a central place in the history of Morocco, and which is close in time to the present generation or generations. It tells the story of a woman who was ready to do anything during those desperate times in order to survive. Although Wheat Thief is based upon real events, it tells a fictitious narrative. However, I did use the names of people who really existed. So now I'm going to read probably just the first part of Wheat Thief. I've been waiting for the guard's vigilance to lapse for more than 30 minutes. I was nervous, but not as nervous as someone who's about to commit a crime. I was 24 or 25. I had only one child at that time, Sahar. She was a frail girl with bright, curious eyes. She was probably the only girl in Letamna who could read and write. Your grandfather loved her so much that he made her go to the Kutab to learn the Quran with the boys of the village. He even sold one of his lands to Vodho to buy her a dress when she was 4 or 5. Sahar was 10, almost my age when I was married to your grandfather. If it weren't for the famine, she'd be engaged. My other children, all boys, died at a very young age. Mohammed died of typhoid at 2, and Lehsen died of pneumonia at the age of 4. Tayyib was the youngest. He had been born right there in the house your grandfather had built with his own hands in the spring of 1942. A little boy who took a few halting breaths and died. The house was not big then, but it had been expanded gradually as your father and uncles came along. A small courtyard was surrounded by 2 rooms, one for sleeping and the other for the meals and the eventual guests. We also had a storage room where food and water supplies were hidden in a deeply dug mtmora. That was the only way to make sure the French soldiers wouldn't take our food resources. The French were fighting against the Germans and were looting the villages to obtain provisions. Your grandfather had gone to Ain Tmushans to work in the French vineyards and wasn't heard of in several weeks. It was not the first time he went to Algeria. He'd been there for a year when Zahra was born and had come back with 500 toros. That sum was a fortune back then. Many other men in Lower al-Khudran at L'Temna also went to Algeria searching for work. It was their last chance to save their families from starvation. Your grandfather promised to come back home with enough money to buy food and clothing. He refused to work for the Nasara. His dislike of them was not random. It was an inherited attitude going back several generations. I did not want your grandfather to leave me and Zahra on our own in such hard times. I was upset, angry, and frightened, but I knew that it took him a lot of guts to walk across uncounted kilometers of unknown territory in hope of improving his situation and that of his family. He told me that doing anything would be better than staying at home like an idle woman, doing nothing and wishing he was on the other side of the country where his friends and neighbors lived. The grass was poor and dry with scant life in it. The fields had fallen barren, the sheep were dying, buckets dropped in the wells came up with mud and finally with nothing. I had to go to Menria, which was 8 kilometers away from Al-Dawar to fetch water. Our life depended on crops we planted and on the rain. One after the other, farmers sold their lands for a bag of wheat. Drought was the predominant concern of everyone. However, the Nasara were better equipped. They had tractors and water pumps for irrigation. In fact, they greatly benefited from our misfortune. We hadn't eaten in 3 days. I dug the earth for hours and still no trace of gugar or any other plant. When a sprig of grass came up, someone was always standing over it, waiting to nip it off. Well, I was digging for its roots because the land was so barren that it showed no sign of plants or weeds. Guga's roots went deep where water still hid from the sun, but even those had died. Guga was bitter and slippery. You had to swallow it very fast, and it stuck in your throat and made it hard for you to breathe. I was relieved that I didn't have to force Zahra to eat it. I could never forget how she choked the last time she ate Guga bread and understood that it was dangerous for her. So I had to feed her something else. I needed a miracle for that. My first thought was to see Botro and ask him for a job. Everyone at L'Temna worked for him. Botro came to Morocco in 1921. The year I was born. He had owned only 1 hectare of land at the beginning. But little by little, he bought more and more land, most of which he converted into profitable vineyards. He produced red wine, which he sold primarily to France. Of course, I had to disguise myself as a man. I had to wear your grandfather's old jalaba, had to wrap my black thin hair in his rusas so nobody could tell I was a woman. Working with hungry farmers and impudent Sarah would be risky for the young woman that I was. But this did not make me decide against the idea of finding a job in one of Botro's vineyard farms. How to look like a man. I thought of smudging ash on my face, but would this be enough? I was not able to sleep through the night. I had to find a way of disfiguring my face. As soon as I heard Adhan al-Fajr, I threw the handbill away and went to the kitchen. I took a knife with a sharp edge, the one I used to behead chickens, and I brutally slashed across my face with it. Yes, that's how I got my scar. The pain was unbearable. I stared dizzyingly at the pool of blood that formed on the floor. I finally sneaked into the room where Zahra was still sleeping and fetched my small silver mirror from the wooden box. I hesitantly examined the ugly wound that was gashing in the middle of my face. I looked like a monster. I remembered that my mother used ash to heal wounds. I spread some over my face, but that did not soothe the pain. I went out of the house shortly after the first bell of the day was rung. Seasonal farm workers had half an hour for breakfast before they returned to work again in one of Botro's farms. They worked 10 hours under the hot sun And how much were they paid? Almost nothing. It was a warm, sunny spring day, and I felt hot under your grandfather's heavy jleba. I did not know where Votre's villa was, but I assumed that if I kept walking, I'd succeed in finding it. It was not the first time I went out on my own. I used to go to the forest to get wood for the cooking place, but there wasn't anything to cook anymore except for tea. So I hadn't gone to the forest for a while. I walked for a long time. Still, no sign of the villa and the large vineyard surrounding it. I thought I had gotten lost. It was noon or later before I reached Votre's kingly mansion. As I approached the vineyards, I was stunned. It was as if I was crossing over from night into day. The world became all green grass against the bluest sky. I clenched my teeth together in pointless anger as I stared at the lands that used to be ours. My stomach wove itself into a resentful knot when I remembered how we had lost all our land, the land your grandfather had spent so much time on and worked so hard to prepare for crops. All his life, he worked the land, shaped it, and shaped by it. He derived a strong sense of pride from having his own land. Your grandfather's dream was to have 100 hectares farmland. He had worked very hard in the last 10 years and managed to have a 10-hectare land. That's why he was very sad when he had to sell the last hectare to Votre. For that Nazari, the land was simply a commodity to be used, traded, or sold. The guard was there. I was not breathing for a few seconds. That was the first time I had ever been close to a man other than your grandfather. His features were coarse, his face was cold and without cordiality. What do you want? He asked gruffly. Talk to Votre. I put on what I thought was a man's voice. I was trying to sound like your grandfather. Wildman, Wild Mustafa. That was really my father's name. How old are you? I am 20 and I want a job. Go away. I am robust and sturdy. I can do anything. Look at my hands, they are strong and rough. I persisted desperately. There are already too many workers. We don't need you, he said loudly. I was still pleading for a job when a middle-aged Nazari chewing an unlighted cigar suddenly appeared. That was Votre. I had never seen him before. I had just heard of him from your grandfather. Still, I immediately recognized him. He was dressed in a neatly tailored shirt and tight-leg pants. He wore shiny brown shoes and a high-waisted straw hat. My first impression of him was that he wasn't much bigger than Hamdoun, your grandfather. Ya Rabbi, if he's so weak and defenseless, how did he cheat us of our lands? My eyes pleaded, but Votre gave me a disdainful glance. Dégage! I did not understand what he said, but his big, flat, emotionless voice was enough information for me. A spasm of rage gripped my throat for a moment. I imagined myself knocking Votre to the ground, punching, slapping, biting, pinching, and kicking him. But the fear of not having anything to eat brought me back to the real world. As I was heading back home, I was trying to remember the last real meal I had. Nothing. The bitterness of Guga erased whatever memory I had of decent human food. I walked for what felt like hours. I was breathless, exhausted, and dizzy with hunger and thirst. I touched my wounded cheek. It was bleeding. All of a sudden, I had a brilliant idea. And that'll be all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sharok, for sharing the story today with us. For all of you who are now very thrilled to find out what this idea might have been, please head on over to tintjournal.com. You find the link actually in the YouTube chat right away to Sharok's profile, and from there you get to her published piece on our page. So please check it out. It's definitely a piece worth reading, and I'm very happy that we have it on Tint Journal. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Next up is a poet again, Eva Titic. She is Croatian, her first language is Croatian, and she speaks English as a second language. She's an international artist and teacher from Croatia and has lived in New York, USA, and Guangzhou in China. And recently she has relocated to Spain. She mainly writes poetry, but also some short stories and nonfiction. And she's also published a chapbook thus far titled Alice in Greenpoint, which was published at Finishing Line Press in 2015. And at Tint, she has published her poem Sex Tape B-Side in our Fall 20 issue. And I believe today she's going to read this poem and a few others as well. So Eva Titic, thank you for being here, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Yes, indeed, I will start with Sex Tape B-Side, which was published in Tint. Sex Tape B-Side is an interesting poem. I think we all have our own ways of expressing the depth of intimacy. I think for a lot of us, sex tape is not necessarily the way to do it. And this kind of acknowledges that fact. So Sex Tape B-Side. My vices got unzipped and are now hanging loose. That's the title of your sex tape. When you're gone, I circle your apartment like a hungry cat. That's the title of your sex tape. I knock things down for fun and scratch my skin raw. That's the title of your sex tape. What if I told you that exploring your mouth feels like a cave? That's the title of your sex tape. I can't fold your shirt without slipping into its left sleeve. That's the title of your sex tape. No, that is. Wait, this one. I don't want a sex tape, really. I want a mixtape. One from the 80s where I could listen for clues of what you're dying to tell me without speaking, so I can have my closure and eat it too. The tape is spent. It spins and spills out like silk. That's the title, that one. So other than this poem, I want to read a couple more that are just what I'm working on currently, and some are to do with the book I'm working on currently. And the first one is called The Island Life of Croatian Variety. And I would say this poem has to do with coming back to your country after a while and feeling like maybe you don't quite belong, but that is the place you belong to the most. So yeah, The Island Life of Croatian Variety. If taking a holiday by yourself is something to frown upon, then scowl at me. For the one I took last year was a blissful vacancy, filled with turquoise waters pouring over dried sand and solitary walks along Roman ruins, down to cities as ancient as human need to explore them. And who am I to resist? Jobless and spending my savings, watching them pour out, but the plan was there. My hopes in a twist of where backpack extends into plastic bags and deflated mattresses. Don't you worry, I always find my way back into some sort of semblance of order. But for now, I love the sun burning my back as I flip-flop my way on the side of a wide road which leads to the beach. What is really there to worry about when the land and the sea both recognize your ancestry? I am not one to harp on heritage, but there is a calm that comes with sitting still in where you are from, even if only generationally, taking pride in those you never knew, whose blood is coursing you by omnipotent osmosis, and imagining them looking down in their approving solemnity, in dipping your feet where the pebbles touch theirs, because water has moved on since. It connects us all, but breaks up familiarity. Maybe what I'm trying to say is this Croatian holiday has helped me belong despite my obvious heresy. The island on which I stayed proved akin to its name, a lighthouse where I was able to sit in stillness, to complete the book which was brewing in the whispers of what I had yet to say, then sit with myself and call it a day, go off island hopping with a newfound friend, also escaping her own new normal. Our experience built to a shrine of the wind and hair, salt and skin kind, one we are reluctant to let go of, even post many months. What is it that we are, if not ourselves at these moments, at brief swims which encompass us, like we didn't even know we yearned? And what am I even, if not a product of this shoreline, its ebbs and flows seeping in from dull to ecstatic? I cannot help but return to it as a fraud and a thief, a cheat with Atlantic. Yet I return, a penitent guest, only asking for healing, for water and salt, which always give life. The next one is title of my hopefully soon to be published collection. We'll see. And it's called A Skywriter Writes His Last Message in the Sky. It is the greatest confession, a love letter to the entire region. It is how, when someone you love is leaving, you are compelled to pour it all out. It is that one thing you've been hoping to read every time you tear open a letter. It is the statement you pause before writing, thinking to yourself, am I really going to unleash all of this feeling? It is the exact point you've been saving, the perfect retort to somebody's jab. It is wholly unholy and utterly sacred, these right words you've lived by at the crest of your life. Here it comes. It's arrived. Okay. This one's called You Only Get So Much Life. And it is really a moment in time, as the subtitle suggests, which is Zagreb, March 2020. And it was written at that time, in that place, shortly before Easter. It has to do with, well, Easter arriving, and then it has to do with Corona being very, very prominent at that time. And if you know anything about Croatia last year, it has to do with a very strong earthquake we had, because I was living there at the time and it was quite devastating. So you only get so much life. Zagreb, March 2020. The Holy Week enters, and we are so very Jesus-like in our suffering. After a lull comes the morning, when we are shaken awake, the mundane and the holy, all of us wholly concussed, and even our books, they're falling off shelves, and even the very ground we all walk on has been ripped from under our feet. All this to say nothing concerning the plague, the modern day Judas tapping us out with a kiss, a mere touch, a gasp unto our breath. And though no greater love truly exists than to lay down your life for a friend, when we come help, we will come gloved, masked and scrubbed clean, holding our breath while we try, because one only does get so much life. This is the last one. It's kind of a poem of longing, which maybe is the type of poem I like writing the best, and it will hopefully keep you longing for more. Okay. It's called The Edge. It is fascinating that I can watch you as I do and not go mad. Someone should give me a medal for this extreme sport of your nearness while I cannot have you. I watched a whole parade unravel. Lovers go through your room like a carousel, a beautiful distraction. Friends worship your every opinion. Does even your mother know how loved you are on a day-to-day basis? I don't mean by me, that is implied. But what I mean is, how do you turn on so many lights? How are there so many hearts dropped on your plate? All these mistakes you elicit in passing, while you casually saunter your way, unassuming and unknowing, oblivious or not. You are the everythingness of everything, and the nothingness is where you are not. So be here or don't, but do so entirely, in case I too end up going mad. I'd just like to know what kind of madness, so I am appropriate, so we can name it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eva, for sharing your touching poems with us today and with Tint. And best of luck with your collection. I can't wait to read it once it's out. Thank you for being with us. And now I believe we'll be moving on to our last speaking writer, Satwik Gupta. He's originally from India, with his first language being Hindi and his second language is English. His piece, his story, A Piece of Mercy, was published in our Spring 21 edition. And Satwik is an Indian writer whose work has been published in the Abstract Elephant magazine, the Alpur Post, and the Literary Herald, among others. Satwik is about to embark on a doctoral journey, which he hopes will strengthen his understanding of the ontology of human existence, and he currently lives with his family in Jammu near the Himalayan foothills in India. And Satwik, whenever you're ready, I believe you're going to read A Piece of Mercy and maybe something else too.
Hi, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I won't be reading A Piece of Mercy. Instead, I'll be reading a piece of flash fiction which I wrote. It's called Cesium and Strontium, and I'll start with a little context behind this piece. So this story, it's inspired by a writer, Svetlana Alexievich. Her book was called Chernobyl Prayer, and it is a collection of testimonies of people whose life was affected directly or indirectly by the nuclear disaster of Chernobyl. So although I have no direct association with that event, but upon reading that book, I was overcome with the need to express myself, to read something in order to celebrate the undying fortitude and perseverance of the people who braved this atrocity. So I'll begin, now that you're acquainted with the context, I'll begin my story. Cesium and Strontium. It's the 10th anniversary of my husband's death, so I thought I would celebrate. He would have liked it. Valery, my Valery, he had volunteered as a cleaner during the aftermath of the Chernobyl disaster. He had spent all his life here in Pripyat, underneath the towering shadow of the power plant, he would say. Minutes after the explosion, he had made up his mind. There was no convincing him otherwise. Valery was like that, a patriot and an optimist, both of which virtues ended up killing him. At the sight of the burning reactor, he was one of the many nameless and faceless men who solemnly performed their duties in the background. One day he'd be fetching boron, the next day uprooting soil, shooting infected livestock, or vacating nearby buildings. I, on the other hand, was moved to the adjacent town, but Valery would come to see me often. And during that time, only once did I see him break down in front of me. And it was when he had just uprooted the soil and the plants that we had grown together, all our crops and our fruits. And with all the death and suffering surrounding him, it was this which broke him down, which made him embrace me and cry like a child. He eventually received a Medal of Commendation from the state. Somehow he managed to get a picture taken by one of his comrades. He was in his worker's uniform, the medal was pressed up against his chest, and his rifle was slung back across his shoulder, and he wore the brightest smile imaginable. It was as if he himself had successfully tamed the disaster. He looked invincible, my Valery. A year later, he died from cancer caused by that very radiation. The doctor told me perhaps Chernobyl had nothing to do with it, but I knew the truth. We all did. Still, I'm glad that his work had not taken him near the heart of the reactor, because I had heard that men in there had died unbearable deaths. I thank the heavens every day for my Valery's quiet, peaceful departure. In the end, they gave me his belongings, whatever was left of him, and some money to restart my life. I used the money to smuggle myself back to our old house in Pripyat. It still lay within the radiation zone, but where else was I supposed to go? Once it was diagnosed that Valery had in fact died because of radiation, they buried him under many layers of concrete along with some of his comrades. He was a walking nuclear reactor. They all were. So they buried them under the earth in concrete lined with lead. I hated that place. He couldn't hear me from under there. I felt as if our connection was severed forever. So as soon as I returned to our home, I took his uniform along with his Chernobyl medal and I buried it all in our backyard. I clipped a cutting of the rose bush on the other side of the town, dipped it in honey, and planted it on top of his grave. Now he rests there, next to the potatoes I'm growing and underneath a rose cutting. And we talk to each other every day. The entire neighborhood is quiet. There are more animals here than people. Only some people like myself have found our way back here. We nod and smile as we pass each other through the ghostly streets. I try to grow my own food in the backyard, which includes potatoes and some other crops, whichever the ones are easier to grow. These vegetables are radioactive. You shouldn't be eating them, said the soldiers who patrolled this area. I invited them to dinner once, but they declined. I offered them my potatoes. They refused to touch them. They are good kids, though. Every week they bring me essentials like butter, bread, eggs, and whatnot. So for the anniversary, I prepared pancakes today. The soldiers, they brought me some wine. I did most of the washing and cleaning in the morning. Cesium and strontium followed me around the house. Cesium is my cat, strontium my dog. They found me last year, the gifts of Chernobyl, cesium and strontium. Since not many people live around these areas, wildlife has flourished here. I have seen elks, wolves, foxes, and bears strolling around the road nonchalantly. Strontium ran away once. He did not come back for 2 days. I thought the wolves had eaten him, but he eventually returned and hasn't left my side since. One of the patrolmen accepted my invitation for lunch today. His name is Yuri. He helped me set up the table and 2 chairs in the backyard. I brought out the pancakes. We had some wine afterwards. Yuri thanked me and left. I poured myself another glass of wine and watched him leave. I often wonder how different life would have been if Chernobyl had never happened. You think too much, Valery would say. The sun has come out. I feel its warmth brushing against my skin. I decide to sit down on the ground, closer to where he rests. My Katya, he used to call me. He would hold me in a tight embrace and whisper in my ear, "My Katya, we shall grow old together, right here in our very home." And I would smile at him and his undying hopefulness. I still do when I reminisce about it, because he was right. We did find a way to grow old together, and that too in our very home. Strontium has crept up under my feet. Cesium is sitting over by the window. The potato leaves are swaying with a northbound breeze, and the rose cutting near Valery is finally shooting leaves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Satwik, for sharing this new piece with us here today. It's always very enriching to also hear and actually watch performances of pieces that we have not yet seen and read. So this has been very nice. Thank you so much. Yeah, and it's quite hard to believe, but this has almost been the end. So this was the last reading performance for today. Our reading event is not quite over yet. Stay tuned because soulparlez still have at least one song, I believe, for us to listen to that will guide us out into the night. And before they do so, I just again like to point you to our tinted tote bag raffle for today. So please have a look at this YouTube chat where you find all the information. Basically, what you have to do, you still have about 5 minutes to do so. Just email us at info@tintjournal, in the reference say tote bag, and then you're in the raffle and you might be the lucky winner of a tint tote bag. Yeah, and if you in general like our magazine, if you like our website, please do support us as a volunteer on Journal. We really depend on your donations and your probably emotional support. So please share your thoughts on what we do with us, and also thanks for doing this so lovely in this YouTube chat. It's been very nice to follow along. I also want to really thank our Ko-Fi donors, our patrons at patreon.com/tintjournal. Also the Land Steiermark for supporting us with some funding. Yeah, and if you're interested in how you can jump in, just have a look at our website. We have a support button on the top. Just check it out if you're interested. And yeah, speaking of thanks, huge thanks to everyone who's been involved in the organization of this evening. So first of all, Matt, for co-moderating this wonderful night with us. It's been really a pleasure having you doing this with me here. Then of course, Andrea for doing all the organizational work and for putting so much effort into the marketing at Tint. Huge thanks as always. Great to have you at Tint. Yeah, also Marcel again for lending me a super high-tech workspace. What would I do without this? And yeah, just everyone else who's sharing, who's spreading the word. And last but not least, and certainly not least, thanks to all the amazing writers for being here tonight, for spreading your wonderful pieces and for reading and performing here. It's just, yeah, you are the core of what we do, and what would we do without publishing you? So thank you for putting all this trust in Tint Journal. And probably let's just have a last look at all of the amazing writers. So if you could just briefly turn your cameras on, here they are. So now live on YouTube. Thank you for being here tonight. Wow. So yeah, now we've really almost reached the end. I will just head over to soulparlez for their last song to bring this nice session to a close. And then I hope to see all of you again soon. Reach out to us if you have questions, and stay tuned for the next Tinted Tales reading. So goodbye.
Yeah, hi once again. Thank you, Lisa, for just checking. Yeah. You can hear us. Nice. Thank you, Lisa, and the whole Tint team for having us, and to all the writers, of course. It was a lovely evening. Yeah, you probably know by now, but we're soulparlez. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram, or since you're here on YouTube already, you can check out our YouTube channel. It's called soulparlez Music. Yeah, and we'll sing one last song for you. It's called Flowers. It's one of my songs. And yeah, I wish you a lovely evening or day, whatever. Yeah.
Once I was a flower, tiny but strong, just needed the sun for dancing on my own. Ooh, ooh. to fulfill their need. Ooh, 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 ooh. Falling in my head, falling in my head. We keep losing it, we keep losing it. Falling in my head, falling in my head. We keep losing it, we keep losing it. Falling in my head, falling in my head. We keep losing it, we keep losing it. Falling in my head, falling in my head. We keep losing it, we keep losing it. Falling in my head, falling in my head. We keep losing it, we keep losing it. Falling in my head, falling in my head. We keep losing it, we keep losing it. Falling in my head, falling in my head. We keep losing it, we keep losing it. Falling in my head, falling in my head. We keep losing it, we keep losing it. Falling in my head, losing it. We keep losing it. But they gave me shelter when winter came in strong. So I guess now I'm red, but dancing on my own. Ooh, 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 ooh. Some keep pouring their poison right in our head. Some keep changing their colors. Some will stay red. Some will start turning and shaking it off. See their natural color, they almost forgot. I'm still a flower, tiny but strong. I keep on dancing, dancing on my own. I see all your flowers in our garden we grow. We stand together, dancing on our own.
Thank you.
Bye bye, thanks.
Thank you.